how you need not and must not hide behind a house or a big corporate brand. You need to build your own brand. And I have just the man today that is going to help us know how to do that. His name is Josh Pitts. Stay tuned for an amazing episode. So the big question is this: how do those of us in the real estate industry with crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we simultaneously seek success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard, and this is the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a treat for you today. I'm absolutely thrilled to bring not only someone who I deeply admire in this industry onto the show, I should say bring back onto the show, but I also have the opportunity to bring a dear friend. He's one of the same. His name is Josh Pitts. He is the CEO and founder of Shred Media, who does, not only do they do consulting work, but they also do, coming soon, coaching for the mortgage industry and helping professionals in that industry get very, very good at being extremely effective online. Josh Pitts, such a pleasure to have you here today, my friend.
Dude, the honor is mine. Justin, you and I have been friends for a long time. You and I, being with that, we're both in the real estate realm. It has just been so fun to watch you as you have completely just blown up the Think Bigger Real Estate group and the show. So kudos to you. Excited to be here. Honored to be talking to our industry and all those real estate professionals out there. So it should be fun.
Dude, it's going to be a blast. I'll tell you what, for anybody that's wondering, how did you decide to start doing a podcast? I don't know how I decided, but one of the people that I admired in this industry was you, Josh. Believe it or not, that was 5 years ago. And I came to you and said, dude, you're killing it online. Give me some insight. And you gave me a rigorous standard of doing a podcast a day. When I first started, I did a podcast a day, and it was 100% credited to you. And that's what launched Think Bigger Real Estate. And I would just say to anybody out there, if you're trying to get your real estate business to another level, it's like taking a plane and getting it up in the air. It's going to take an enormous amount of energy at first. You can't coast on the runway. You've got to go full tilt right out of the chute. And that's Josh Pitts' style. And that's what he taught me. And lo and behold, because of that, here we are today. Think Bigger Real Estate is much more than a podcast now. And this man, this friend of mine right here, had a big part to do with that. So appreciate that, man.
Dude, that's humbling to hear, because that's exactly what we strive to do. At Shred, when I started Shred years ago, and when I first started doing a podcast a day, I literally just set out on an opportunity and a journey to help others tell their story, to share. Everybody, sometimes the biggest problem that I see when it comes to people wanting to like build a brand is they think it's, self-aggrandized. They think it's egotistical. They're like, oh man, like I feel bad about sharing me. Like, it just seems like people don't care. And I'm like, yes, they do. Here's what's really cool. And all of you listening today is every single one of us has this unique, I would call it a gift, to impact people's lives every single day. And Justin, what's really, really cool is you have the gift to impact certain people's lives that I never will. We could say the exact same thing, the exact same message, and there will be some people that you resonate with and some people that I resonate with. So I always tell people, when it comes to building a brand, you have this incredible, like, you not just an opportunity, you almost have a responsibility to share your voice, to share your message. And whatever that is, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a show, whether it's just some micro clips and micro content using this incredible device, like we all have access to one of the most powerful tools, this cell phone. We all have one, whether you're an Android or an iPhone person. You can literally share your story, and you never know whose life you're going to change, whose life you're going to impact. Look at you. I mean, again, I was just doing my thing, and you went out on your journey, and look how many hundreds and thousands of people your life has changed now. So that's what's so fun about building a personal brand. That's what's so fun about creating content, sharing content, and going down this journey, is you never know. Like, and it could be, like you said, it is like getting a plane off the ground, because in the beginning, I will tell you, it is difficult. Like, can it be done? Absolutely. Any of you can do it. You just have to be willing to commit and willing to hammer down on that throttle and like give it some time. It's going to happen.
Man, such great insight. Because I do think that there's all kinds of misnomers that you just shot holes in, Josh. Absolutely shot holes in, which was, number one, if I build a personal brand, it's too egotistical, right? And really, what you're doing is you're cheating the world of the impact that you could have otherwise had. It's not egotistical to serve other people. It's actually egotistical to not.
Yep.
When you hide your talents, When you do not share them with the world, you are thinking way too much about yourself and way too little about the other people that you could impact. Period. Get over yourself. The world needs you, and you cannot do what you're supposed to do by hiding under a dang rock. So I love that, man.
And that's the hardest thing for me, Justin. And people are always saying, well, Josh, Justin, I don't love the way I look. I don't love the way I sound. And it's just like, okay, here, and I do this every time I speak on stage. Is one of my favorite things to do. I'm like, hey, everybody pull out their cell phone, take a selfie, take a quick video, show to the person next to you. Crazy enough, you sound exactly like you do on video or on a picture that you do in person. So why not share? Like, if that's your excuse, you're like, I don't love the way I look or sound, you got to get over that, because we live and breathe it every single day. We are who we are. We are, we all have been given these God-given gifts and abilities and talents, and we've been designed the way that we are for that reason. So share it with the world. Like, just get that out of your head that you don't like the way you look, the way you sound, and maybe you don't love video. Maybe, and I always tell people this, I've worked with people in the past, even CEOs and executives, with what you said. They're like, well, I feel arrogant when I'm saying these things. And I'm like, you should get that out of your head, because if you have that, if you're not creating content, if you're not sharing your gifts with the world, it's more arrogant than anything. Because again, we each have an opportunity. We each have a voice out there to share something. Whether it's real estate, whether it's insurance, whether it's title, whether it's mortgage, whether it's car sales, whatever it is, like, and it may not even be business. Maybe you love gardening. Maybe you love hiking. Maybe you love biking. I always share my story. I started my social media journey over 10 plus years ago, just sharing my journeys of the outdoors. I loved hiking. I loved biking. I loved boating. And that's what I shared. So many people think they have to talk business all the time when it comes to their personal brand. As a matter of fact, I think it's the opposite. Start sharing something that you just have a passion for, and everything else will follow from there.
Yeah, but it's a great point. I do think going back to the initial kind of comment that I said, is that all too often people hide behind the brand of a house, right? All they show are inanimate objects, right? And although that might be entertaining to some degree, number one, you're shortchanging your career, right? Because that house will come and go. Someone else will own it, and you will no longer have the ability to brand yourself around that house, right? People are choosing a professional that they can trust, that can get them the life that they want. And they're looking at who you are, and specifically how you're helping other people get from where they are to where they want to be, so that they can determine whether or not they trust you to get them from where they are to where they want to be, right? And if you don't expose that, if you don't talk about yourself and your journey and helping other people, how will they ever know, right? The chances of them getting a professional that can't serve them at that level are great, right? They're great. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that aren't very good at what they do, yet they're scooping up business just because they're very good at prospecting. It doesn't mean that they're actually the best professional to serve them. So by you being quiet, it hurts. Talk to us, Josh. What else do you see? Because again, you're in the weeds with people, helping them get over this psychological. And I believe that's probably the first step that we all need to uncover, is the thing that holds people back from taking those steps into really creating a personal brand. What else do you see that we can really help people to get over today?
The biggest thing that I see, and I literally hear this probably a dozen times a week, and it drives me crazy. Well, Josh, everybody's doing it. And I'm like, what? Like, no, just because you see a few real estate brokerages, or you see a realtor on TikTok or on Instagram or on Facebook, you're like, well, Justin, Josh, everybody's doing it. I've seen 10 realtors already. There's 100,000 realtors in this group that I'm on Facebook. They're all doing it. No, they're not. Like, you have to get that out of your head. Like, there is such a fractional amount of people actually doing it consistently. Even greater is the number. I would say 99% of you, and I can say this because we literally spend our days on social media. Like, that's what I do. My profession, Shred Media, we help big brands grow their brand on social media, and we're always watching. I love, and you mentioned this, you kind of put out a teaser out there. We're getting ready to release a group. We have been asked by so many people about coaching, and I don't want to put myself in a coach, but I want to be a guide. I want to be in the trenches. But this is one of the problems, is everybody's like, well, Josh, everything's already been said, ideas have already been out there. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Now it's your turn to be in front of your audience, in front of your group. Just because you see a realtor, they could be halfway across the freaking country. Heck, they could be in your own city, and you could be like, Josh, I only have a city of 10,000 people. There's another realtor already doing it. Great. That means you have 5,000 other people that you guys can split up. And if you start putting out even more engaging and impactful content, you could take an even larger share of that. So stop thinking. You have to get out of the mindset just because, and there's, I promise you this, and Justin, you and I both know this, there are guys who do it, guys and gals out there who do it way better than us. Our podcasts, our shows, like, hey, we're doing it, but there's people, look at Grant Cardone, you've had him on the show, Gary Vaynerchuk, these guys and gals are amazing at what they do. Forget about how great it is. You just have to put yourself out there. You have to start sharing it, because like you said, eventually you're going to find your audience. You're going to find your niche. You're going to find that audience that just absolutely, they dig what you're saying. So don't, one of my favorite books to this point is Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. I talk about it all the time. I absolutely love it. But basically the premise of the book, it's literally a picture book. I don't know if you've read it, Justin, but it's literally like it's Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. It's like a picture book, very, very short. But here's the premise of it is there are no original ideas anymore. Like you have to go out there and steal like an artist. Now I'm very, very cautious of this. Don't plagiarize, but go find something. Follow great people like Justin. And maybe he puts out a great video and you're like, man, what Justin just said resonated with me. If it resonated with you, it's going to resonate with somebody else. So take what he said and steal it. Make it your own. Put your own spin on it. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, Justin and I could say the exact same thing, but it resonates with different people. So go out there. And I would say to kind of transition this along with what I'm saying, because people are always like, well, you know, everybody else is doing it. I don't know what to say. That's the other biggest thing. What do I say, Justin? What do I talk about? There's everything I did. Again, we have these incredible devices from Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can find people that are putting out great content. Go out there and make it your own. Go out there and find. That's how videos go viral. That's how things are trending on Instagram and on TikTok and all these social platforms is other people are doing the same thing. They're just putting their spin on it. Justin, it baffles me that people are like, well, I don't know what to talk about. And they're like, well, real estate's boring. You're right. Real estate can be boring. You mentioned hiding behind the house. Stop it. Go be you. Have some fun. Maybe you don't want to be the TikTok dancer person. I'm not, but I still put out TikTok content. I still put out Instagram content. So stop making excuses. Like that's the biggest thing, Justin.
You know, I think, boy, you fire, dude. That was a fire. You're right. You think about it. And here's another point I want to make. When people say like, well, everybody's already doing it, right? That we have to come to the conclusion that like not everybody has as many real estate agent friends as you. When you open up your news feed, you naturally are going to see a lot of real estate agent stuff because those are your friends. Those are your coworkers. Those are people who you're in the trenches with and on the other side of transactions with. But the reality is that's not what everyone else's news feed looks like. It's just not. That's not what it looks like. And so for you to say everybody's doing it, their news feed may have one or two other real estate agents in it, right? And especially the way the algorithms work, guys, is that just because somebody posts something doesn't mean that everybody that follows them is going to see it. Like that's just not the way that it works. So I think we need to like be really honest with ourselves here and really listen to what Josh told us is that all that stuff that we're saying, that's anything that's keeping us from not being present on these mediums it's an excuse. And it's keeping us from, number one, living our best life, and number two, impacting other people and helping them to live their best life. So I think it's super critical for us to get that out of the way and go add value, period. Go add value.
You make such a brilliant point here. I hear literally from real estate and mortgage professionals are the worst with this. And again, I'm not trying to jab. This is the industry you and I both work in, but they're always like, well, all I ever see is other realtors. All I ever see is because you're in those groups. Again, you're in some of these giant masterminds, these groups, these pages. And so, yes, again, like you said, not going into algorithms at all, but especially Facebook in particular, you see other realtors popping up because you're in those groups. It thinks that's what you want to see. So you start to train your brain of like, well, man, I see realtor after realtor after realtor. Like there's just my audience is seeing the same thing. No, they're not. They're not even seeing close to that. As a matter of fact, they probably haven't seen any of those other people. Just because, again, they're your friends. Go look at your friends list. I would guess maybe one or two of them are, and again, maybe just because they're in some of those same groups, maybe you friended some of the people from your office, but your audience, the people that you're trying to connect with, that you're trying to build that trust, that confidence, that relationship with, they're not seeing it. I promise. We have surveyed. We've done surveys upon surveys with audiences, and we just know that is absolutely not the case. Plus, if you talk to Facebook, we've talked to LinkedIn developers, we've talked to Instagram developers, it is absolutely designed for you and your audience. For the content you're putting out, they're going to see it. They're not going to see, again, they're not going to see those other people's. So stop worrying about that. As soon as you just get in and start saying, hey, you know what? I have stuff that I want to share. I have something I want to talk about. And like I said, it could be anything. Like it could be, maybe you love flying, maybe you love traveling, whatever it may be. You can start sharing those things and it will resonate. Now, again, to all of this, you can share real estate, you can share mortgage, you can share title, you can share those things. Be that you have spent your entire life and career becoming educated within your realm, within your job. So be willing to share those things. You just don't have to share them all the time.
Boy, I think going back to your point about how everybody's doing it, right? I think that's another big misnomer, because what happens, like you said, we're in these groups where everybody's learning it. Josh, you and I both know that the world is filled with ideas, and it is starving for people who will implement those ideas, right? We built businesses around people helping people to implement very simple things. And it becomes critical for everybody to realize that just because it's being taught everywhere does not mean it's being done everywhere. That you still have massive opportunity to be an early adopter. It might not seem like that, but you are. You think about, I've heard people kind of give you argument of like, well, everybody's doing, whether it be TikTok videos or YouTube videos. And it's just based on how many other professionals are out there you're competing with on a day-to-day basis that you live next door to, you live by. It's such a blue ocean. There's so much opportunity for you to go build your personal brand. And as Josh pointed out, even if they did it, even if everybody was doing it, nobody is you. And nobody says it no one has your experiences. No one has your specific background to be able to say it how you do it. You will attract a certain audience that nobody else can. So even if in the absolute non-existent case that everybody's doing it, nobody's doing it like you would do it. Nobody's speaking to the audience that only uniquely you can touch. And so I think we've done a pretty good job of blowing all these excuses out of the water, Josh.
Yeah. Well, here's a couple things too that you mentioned. Like, even if, let's say you and I are in the same group and we have 10 of our best friends in the exact same group. And we're like, again, we see maybe somebody does a video and says, hey, you need to be doing this, or they're listening to this today saying, hey, I'm going to go do it. I'm excited about this. The chance of them actually executing and going out and doing it is slim to none, because we get all excited. Even when we go to these big conferences, we spend thousands of dollars to go to these conferences to hear incredible speakers. And we're like, yes, I'm jazzed up, I'm excited, but still we don't execute. So like you said, the ocean is so blue right now. Yeah. Two examples of this that I want to share real quick, and they're in the finance realm. If you've ever heard of Andre Jick and Stephen Graham, like they literally both copy each other. They have separate YouTube pages. They get millions of views on their YouTube pages, but they literally copy each other. Like they'll shout out each other like, hey, Graham did a video this week on this. I'm going to kind of reiterate. I'm going to say it in my own words. And again, they get millions of views together, and on their separate pages. They just do it in their own little way. So to your point here, Justin, and kind of what we're saying, stop making excuses. Go find great groups and say, hey, I heard Justin say this. I'm going to go actually do it. Because again, if 10 of your best friends heard it, maybe one of them will actually do it. Maybe we wish 9 of them, the other 9 would go execute on it, but we just know that's not the case. Because going back to how we started this, getting that plane off the ground can be difficult. Is it worth it? Absolutely. The view at 30,000 feet is amazing. The places you can go is absolutely unlimited, but you have to get the plane off the ground. You have to be willing to throttle down and make it happen.
Oh my goodness. Josh, this is absolute gold. I just want to, first and foremost, before we move into the next segment here of the show, I want to just thank you for bringing the fire today, my friend. While we're here, I want everybody to know that we have a special place for you. It's called Successful Real Estate Agents. It's a private Facebook group. Inside of there, we're dropping bombs of wisdom, very tactical things that you can apply. If you're not yet a member of the Successful Real Estate Agents Facebook group, join us over there. And we're going to be helping you to implement things like we're talking about here today. Josh, I want to talk now about the tactical side, right? Let's say that we've, like I said, blown out of the water the excuses that people have had about why they should not be doing it. Now they're convinced, okay, I'm in, I'm doing it. What would be the very first couple of steps that you would encourage people to do? And let's say we're not talking to like people that are maybe just getting started, but people that are looking to really improve their personal brand, right? They're looking to take it to another level. Like, what would you say that would look like?
I'm so glad and I'm not going to, we did not plan this at all, but what you just talked about, joining your group like that, get in a group that can actually help you day in and day out, that is going to share ideas with you, that's going to have some type of accountability, whether it's like a daily, a weekly, a monthly, whatever it is, but just surround yourself with like-minded people. Like, this is your tactical, because again, the more I've surrounded, the reason I started is like, I tried to find other like-minded people that were doing it. And it was hard. Like, it was hard to find those people. But when I did, when I found my people, when I found my group, and I'm like, hey, they're doing it as well, I want to go do it as well. That made it so much easier when you're championing one another, when you're sharing the difficulties, the ups, the downs, the highs, and the lows. So find a community, find a group, this Facebook group that you mentioned, like go get in these groups. That is what's ultimately going to get you in the right mindset. That's what's going to surround yourself with the right people. And then it's simply a matter, like I said, if we want to get real tactical, if you've been doing this for a long time, like you have to continue to do it consistently. And I always tell people, we have a $4,000 camera. We've got a $3,000 mic setup. You don't have to have that. Our first 150 videos, you go back to daily videos, like you mentioned in the very beginning, our first 150 videos, Justin, were done on an iPhone. That's it. iPhone and AirPods. Like people love to make that tactical excuse. Well, I don't have a setup like you guys do. Great. Like neither did I in the very beginning. And those were some of our best days of just sharing awesome conversations. The other tactical thing that I would mention here, and I want to share this with everybody, is you don't have to be the expert. Find, like you and you brought me on your show. Am I an expert? Absolutely not. I've just been doing it for a while. Whatever you're doing, you don't have to be the main source of content. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but find other great people within your community, within your sphere that you can bring on a show or a podcast. I love talking about shows and podcasts. And here's why, Justin, it's because you create pillar content. And I stole this from Gary Vaynerchuk. I'll shout out, Gary Vaynerchuk has a model. You have pillar content, you have micro content, and you have distribution of the content. I like a podcast or a show because it's pillar content. You and I are going to go back and we're going to rip this. We're going to go back and take probably 3, 4, 5 pieces of content out of things that we've said. And now we have content for a whole month. So many people think that creating content is difficult, and tactically that overwhelms them. They're like, well, I can't create one piece of content even a week, or hell, imagine trying to do one a day. That would be impossible. But doing something on Medium like this, where we can do long form content and then chop it up, it just makes it easier for all of you. I know we're trying to feed you through a fire hose right now, but this is getting really tactical. If you've started to put out one piece of content a week, just doing short form video on your iPhone or whatever, now it's time to step it up. Say, okay, now how do I get to 2? And a lot of times it's starting a show, starting a podcast. And there's so many great groups and people like yourself that can help educate and guide people on that.
Yeah. I love that. I do believe that people get excited because they go hear somebody do it. They're like, I'm going to do this. And then they execute on a couple of times. They don't see an immediate return. And they're like, that took so much time. And I think number one, we need to realize that your face needs to be in the video. Your face does not need to be the one editing the video. Now, first and foremost, it may not need to be edited at all. Let's just, like Josh talked about, start off just talking into a phone. Right? Get it out there. If you want to start to spice it up, realize like Josh is saying, this doesn't have to be all you. You don't have to be a one-man band doing everything. You'll realize that it's going to take some people, some help, and you can find that help without breaking the bank, right? You really can.
Right. No, and this point is so great because like me, I will be very honest. I have a director of content, but in the very beginning, I edited my own videos. I was taking them. I was, using iVideo in the very beginning. I was using little things here and there just to do quick little clips. But that's why this is live. My show to this day, after years and years, is still live. It goes unedited. It just goes out to the world. Do we make mistakes? Do we make fumbles? Is it perfect all the time? No. I'm giving you right now, I'm giving you permission. Perfection kills progress. If you try to make it perfect, the worst videos, my team can attest to this. I could bring them in the room right now and they will laugh because when I try to do pre-recorded content, I have to do time after time after time after time. If I'm doing live like I am now, hey, let's just roll with it. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to say something stupid, but let's just keep rolling with this. So that's why I love live. I love just hitting the button, hitting record. Now, again, you don't want to ramble. You have to have something at least thought out or planned that you're going to discuss. But you and I, we knew what we're going to do. We're going to talk about personal branding. Look where it's kind of gone throughout the show. So with that being said, don't overthink it. Don't paralyze yourself by trying to be perfect.
I think, to your point, Josh, actually having an outline, right? Think about back in school when you either had to write an entire paper. The first thing you did was you'd create an outline. Now, nobody likes, especially when you're listening to a public speaker, of having them read, right? And that's what happens. I think when you get too scripted is it's not natural like you're talking about. But if you can just create an outline and you simply look to that, speak to that point, look to the next point, speak to that point. Right. So for those of you that are thinking, okay, I need to create maybe more long form content that is as Josh mentioned, can be cut up and put in different places to where I can get my time back, right? I maybe talk for 10 minutes and create 10 videos out of it, right? When all of a sudden you realize like, okay, that would be really powerful. Like if I'm really going to show up in this space, those secrets that Josh just shared with us about how to do that are key, right? For you to be able to actually make a case for having this become a part of your business moving forward.
Right.
Josh, talk to us really quickly. Any more kind of final tips? I know our time is moving quickly here. Always does when we're together.
Time flies.
What would you say would be kind of final words of advice for people wanting to build a personal brand, right? We've talked about getting over like these stumbling blocks that are in our own heads. We've talked about not overthinking all of the need to be professional. We've talked about how moving from short form content to long form and then cutting up that long form content, right? We've talked about getting some additional help on the editing side to get you some time back to where you're focused on selling homes, not just being a video editor, right? What else would you say? What's missing from people moving out of this episode into really becoming serious about building their personal brand? What are we missing?
The only thing you're missing is like literally going out and executing on. Like, I know that sounds so simple. We're like, well, duh, come on. But seriously, you and I do this. We share this. We do our shows. We do our podcast because we hope that maybe it will just resonate with one of you. We don't need hundreds right now. We just need one of you to go out and start executing on it. And everybody listening to this it's simply going and hitting record, putting together a couple of quick points. And again, there's so much going on in the real estate world right now, Justin. Like there's so many things that you can share. Or like I said, it doesn't even have to start with real estate. If you're not comfortable starting out with real estate, talk about whatever it is. Maybe you love to go fly fishing on the weekends and that's your gig. Maybe you love to crochet. Maybe you are an absolute, like you're a knitter who can knit anybody, anything. Start there and like start talking about those things, get comfortable with it, and it will evolve for you. It will become easier. You'll start to enjoy it. But simply like to wrap all this together, you have to execute on it. Stop making excuses in your mind, hit record on your phone, go out and just start sharing. Just simply try to make one person smile. I always tell people, Justin, a lot of times people think to create impactful content, they need to say something that's just like, whoa, that was awe-inspiring. That was amazing. And sometimes when we start to create content, especially when we're doing it for too long, we're just like, what's my next, how many people are going to hit that like button? How many people are going to comment? How many people are going to engage with it? When all we need to simply do is just make one. Somebody could see a picture. Somebody could see something that we posted and it makes them smile. That is impactful. Because think about how you feel when you smile. You feel good. You're like, man, that was a good post by Justin. That made me smile. That made me think. That made me feel like a better person. That's all you have to do. Like, that's it. It doesn't have to be this piece of content that it was like, oh my gosh, my world has changed. All it has to do is make somebody smile. It has to help them have a better day. And I'm going to remember, I know when I see something at Justin's, I'm like, man, that was a good post. He continues to stay in my mind. He's top of mind with me. That's what we're trying to do with our communities. Stop thinking in the ways of audiences. I'll share this to end. An audience is somebody you speak to. A community is somebody you speak with. That's what you're trying to create. You want a community of people you're speaking together. It's not just about you. It's about everybody in your community. If you start thinking about that in the ways of creating content and building a personal brand, it's going to be so much more. You're going to have people coming with you on that journey. And that's such a better experience.
Man, Josh, absolute gold. You're absolutely right. Again, going back to the same theme is that if you don't know what to talk about, it's because you're not talking with people. You're talking at them, right? You're talking to them. How much more important is it to come on and ask questions, right? Doesn't mean that they had to ask it during the live stream, right? It could be a question that you just got done answering with a client. Someone else has that question. Get on and be a value add to a community, speak with people, invite them into that community. Josh, absolute gold. I'm going to ask you one more question, and it's a signature question of this show, and it is: you are a big thinker, right? Your reach is expanding massively across our industries, across the country. What is it that you do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand your possibilities? What does that look like?
Ooh, surrounding myself with good people. That's it. I have great people like Justin. I have other people that I continually surround myself with to help keep me on the right track, on the right path. Like that is simply it. You cannot be the smartest person in the room. If you are, you're in the wrong room. Put yourself in these groups, in these communities. Justin literally just gave you a group to go join. That's how you think bigger, is you find people who are willing to, who have already started to think big, and you just have to surround yourself with it so you can think bigger. That's it.
Josh, absolute gold, my friend. So always so inspired in talking to you. you really simplify it and make it to where we're thinking to ourselves, why am I not doing more of this? Why am I not contributing, building a community like you're teaching us to do? Appreciate you so much, my friend. And
You bet, man.
to everybody out there listening here today, my final request is this: go think bigger. Josh, thanks for helping us to do that today, my friend.
You bet, brother. See ya.
If you enjoyed this episode, then I have a very special invitation for you. I have created a private Facebook community called Successful Real Estate Agents, where the focus is going beyond success, having both a successful business and a significant life. If you're not yet a member,